Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Wellness by Design today. I am so excited to have you here and welcome you here today for a topic that it's one that I've been struggling with, and that is alcohol. And how do I give it up? Do I need to give it up? And why can't I give it up? So, all of those things, maybe things that you're struggling with too. So, I'm really excited to welcome our guest today, Michaela Weaver. So excited to have you here, Michaela. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Exciting.
You were on a summit that I was on, and I was listening to the other speakers. And when I heard you, I was like, "Oh, I am. This is what I needed to hear." I'm so impressed. So I reached out to have you on the show. So I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you, so they know what you're up to. So Michaela Weaver is the critically acclaimed executive woman's alcohol coach, best-selling author, TED speaker, and master mind shift coach. She is a leading authority for enabling highly successful women to embrace their true alcohol-free, authentic selves in a world where alcohol is normalized. That's part of the problem, right? Her groundbreaking science based methods using the science of transformational freedom result in women joyfully living life free from alcohol and discovering the social secret and thriving in all aspects of work and personal life without it. Michaela is a global leader in envisioning the science of who you are, the signs of who you are when you are free. Her refreshing perspective and straight talking honesty gives clients an uplifting perspective. Her adage is, "It's not your fault. You're not alone. We can do this." Now, what a beautiful coach. She spearheads life transformation for some of the world's most successful women through a reformative paradigm shift, free from alcohol misery or dependency, and creates a blueprint vision of the future that she supports clients to embrace. Michaela, what a great gift you are giving people, because a lot of women struggle with alcohol addiction. I mean, and we may not even think I'm not an addict, but yet we've got this call to the wine or anything else. What's this all about? Why do so many women experience this?
I think there's so much in that question. I think one of the big issues around alcohol is that it's the only drug on the planet that we have to rationalize not taking. And often we don't think of alcohol as a drug, which it is. It's a highly addictive drug. It's the second most addictive drug on the planet after heroin. And if we take enough of anything that's addictive often enough, then the chances are that we are likely on some level to become addicted. That is just the nature of how it all works. And the problem is that because it's so normalized, as you said, by society, that we're not prepared for what might happen. We're not told what might happen. And then 10, 20, 30, whatever it is, years down the line, we find that we're reaching for a glass of wine every night after work. Then we beat ourselves up for doing it. And we didn't even know how we got here. And it is purely because of what, for those and other reasons, but the main is that it is a socially encouraged, socially acceptable drug to take without any of the real understanding that underpins what that is.
Oh, yes. So true. I think of this a lot because I've been trying to move away from alcohol. You know, when I go to find like a birthday card, there's so many birthday cards, all like with wine, and it's just associated with maybe like high living, or you've reached a level of success because you can have wine whenever you want. And, that really adds to it, right? It's hard to break free from that. How do you help your clients break free from that?
For a start, you're absolutely right. It's literally everywhere. It is impossible to even buy a mother's card as a 10-year-old child, which is very telling, without saying it's mummy's best friend. So doesn't that just perpetuate the idea that alcohol is necessary? I work with high-level women, and a couple of days ago, we were looking for some images for something around luxury living, and every single image has got a glass of something bubbly.
Yeah.
And so that association is made. And it's that needs to be broken. It's one of the things, because it's just the way society is. It shouldn't be. And when my clients start to really awaken, if you like, to what this whole illusion is about, they actually get quite annoyed in a small way. I don't want to encourage anger, but there's a little bit of indignation about, why is this everywhere? What am I seeing? Do people not realize? It's literally everywhere. We even saw something recently where it's sort of gin flavor mayonnaise. Yeah. And we laugh. You're right. We laugh at it. Isn't it funny that and so there is a lot of conditioning that is unraveled in my teaching. We are what we believe. What we believe we want is what we get. And that's not to say anybody sort of deserves addiction. It literally is nobody's fault that we fall into this trap, because it is a trap. And so we unravel alcohol, the stuff, alcohol and society, alcohol and you, or alcohol and us, because in each of those levels is the confusion. And it's, when you get one of those necklaces, those tiny little ones that become really, really, really knotted up, and you're trying to unpick so you can wear it, it's been in a drawer and it's all tangled up.
Yeah.
Or unraveling the alcohol conundrum is a bit like that. We have to unpick it. We can't just wake up one day and say, right, I'm going to wear this and it's going to be beautiful, when it's actually been, scrunched up and confused and knotted. We have to undo it. And that doesn't take very long, and it can be very easy. But when we've done it, it's pristine. And when we've done it, there's nothing to give up.
Right.
And that's part of the illusion, is I've got to give up. There's a loss there. There is no loss. And that might seem difficult for somebody listening to this right now, because when in the loop of it all, we can't see that there is no gain, because we're doing it. So we do it for a benefit. We believe there are benefits. That's why we do anything. And so it is the desire. The only thing that people really need to break free is to draw a line in the sand where they go, I just don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want this anymore. And then the next step is just finding out a person to guide them, and a process that works. So it's not about saying, I'm never going to do this again, and feeling happy with that, because actually that's very difficult when we're in the trap. The first thing to do is to decide we don't want to be in it, and then to find a process to get out.
Love it. It just makes so much sense. And you've been a coach for, we were talking beforehand, like 20 years, life coach and other aspects of coaching. And you really honed in on this one particular issue. Why did you decide to hone in on alcohol? Like, were you seeing this as being a problem for the women you were working with?
It's nothing alike. It's ironic, as a qualified coach and a scientist, that I was in the alcohol trap. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing now is because getting out of the alcohol trap was the most transformative, freeing, amazing thing I have ever done in my life. And such a drastic thing wasn't something that I could just ignore and move on and just get on with what I was doing before. It just didn't make sense anymore to me. And so I was actually involved in a different business at the time, and I was working with a business partner. And it was what actually inspired me was that my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was a smoker, another addiction, nicotine. And I'd stopped smoking at this point, I'd stopped drinking at this point for a good 3 years. And I was still doing my previous job. And then something in me just triggered. And I turned to my business partner. I said, I just can't do this anymore. I want to do something more valuable with my life. I want to help others feel the way I do about breaking free from alcohol as an addiction, as and I felt compelled to do it. And then I went sort of home at the time with a blank piece of paper, and I just wrote on it, "The Alcohol Coach." And then it just went from there. The process that I'd gone through myself, I now bring to others. Obviously, since then it's been honed and fine-tuned, and I keep doing so much training and personal development myself to bring that to my clients. So that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. The coaching that I was doing previously was what enabled me to really shine a light on my own situation and to navigate out of it, that and the science of it all as well, which is all fascinating. Yes. Yeah.
A beautiful story. I think so many of us come to what we do because we feel that call to make an impact, to take what we've learned and make it easier for other people. So really beautiful, Michaela. And I just want to mention, we got some people watching live. If you have any questions for Michaela, feel free, or comments, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them. But I also wanted to point, like when you were talking about some of these things that make us addicted to alcohol, it's very similar. We can apply this to other things: smoking, drugs, candy and sugar. There's so many things about those that are normalized, some more than others, that make it really hard to stop. And the social side of these addictive behaviors is a really tough one to overcome, or it seems like that to me. Is it really that tough? Am I making it seem harder than it is? How do we overcome those?
Yeah. So again, it's a process of unraveling. It's a process of exposing the reality. I mean, we all used to believe in Santa Claus at one point, didn't we? Father Christmas. And I don't think there are many of us left or who still do. So what that proves is that we can change what we believe when we know the truth. And this is about exposing the truth of, in this case, alcohol. The additional problem with alcohol is that it is a psychoactive drug. And that means it changes our behavior. It changes our thinking, and it is actually the most harmful drug on the planet. So that in a study against 16 different indicators, it was found to be the most harmful drug on the planet, which is, that in itself should make anybody listening go, really?
Yeah.
Why in that case hasn't anybody told me this before? And so that's one belief, maybe just a little door opening to demonstrate that beliefs change with knowledge.
Right.
And I certainly didn't know that I was taking a highly addictive psychoactive drug on a daily basis in my lovely, pretty bottle of wine.
In a pretty glass with a lovely stem, all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, when you mentioned earlier, sort of, what do I do to reward myself? Instead, one of the things we do is break the illusion of it actually being a reward.
Yes. Oh, that is key, isn't it?
Yeah, because when there's no value in it, when actually it's something that we don't value. I mean, alcohol is, if you think about it, an analogy I use is, and I hope nobody's in this situation, but if you imagine that for the last however long you've been drinking, let's say 20 years, 30 years, if you imagine that your best friend has been having an affair with your husband that whole time behind your back, you never ever knew about it, you thought she was your best friend, and then you find out the truth. Are you going to still invite her around every day for a chat and a coffee? No. Or whatever? Or are you just going to break up with her?
Break up.
And the rest of it, we'll leave that, the rest of what you would do as an aside. But it's exposing the truth. So you think, oh my goodness, none of it was what I thought it was. So alcohol gives $10, takes $20 out of your back pocket without ever telling you, depleting the account bit by bit, year on year. And then one day we wake up and go, how did I get here? I'm in debt. I'm stuck. I don't want to be doing this anymore. And so it's the illusion of benefit. That
Right.
otherwise, why would we do it? We only do for ourselves what we believe is beneficial. And we've erroneously believed that alcohol is beneficial.
I agree with you, and I understand that it is a highly addictive drug, that it does change our behavior in ways that we don't want. It has been robbing us. But yet, when I talk about this, people will often bring up, well, there's studies that show there's health benefits to having a glass of red wine a day, that kind of thing. What do you must hear these arguments too, right? So
Yeah.
how do you answer that?
Well, actually, that one is just very recently. It's very easy to answer because the study came out in January this year,
Oh.
in the Heart Federation, saying that categorically there is no benefit to consuming alcohol at all. The old rumor that a glass of red wine was good for your heart has been categorically stated by the Heart Federation that no alcohol. So forget the units. I don't know what they are where you are. So many units is okay. The safe amount of alcohol to consume for health is 0.
Right.
And the resveratrol, which is found in red wine, can be consumed through blueberries and red grapes without the toxic cancer-causing poisons that come in wine. So it's kind of stories like that
Yeah.
many of us, of course, we believe what we're told. Many of us have believed that keep us where we are. And so it's actually quite stark when you hear that. None is I used to think, well, actually, I forget the units. I was way beyond it. But actually, the truth is that it's not good for us in any, as humans, it is toxic. It's
Right.
ethanol, it's useful for hand sanitizer. We've got through a lot of it in COVID. It's the same stuff. We don't drink ethanol in that form, and yet we do, in a bottle of wine or a gin and tonic,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Interestingly, I don't know exactly what the rules are in the UK or even in Canada, but I know in the US, I think I think it's wine is one of the food substances that they do not have to disclose what the ingredients are, and there's so many toxic ingredients in wine. So the first thing we gotta dispel the myth that it is a reward, because how could it be a reward if it is harmful to us? It tastes good. People might argue that it tastes good. So what about that side of it?
Okay, so these are all things, obviously, that I would go into much, much more depth
Yeah.
in my programs. So just to sort of touch on some of these things, because these are the beliefs, absolutely, that we have. So ethanol itself doesn't taste good. Half a pint of neat ethanol would kill a human being. And so flavorings are added. You can just see that on all the drinks, deliberately targeted by the alcohol industry to widen their audience, so that people will start drinking younger than all the flavored drinks that have come out for alcoholic drinks that have come out for youngsters. So it's all flavored up, it's all packaged up, and it's designed to appeal to our sense of higher level living, more fun,
So
more
true.
social esteem, more maybe wealth with I'm going to have a lovely expensive bottle of. It's all designed to appeal to that drive in us. Ironically, the place it actually hits us is way down on our survival level drivers, because that's why at the worst case, people end up with nothing. Now, 99.99% of people don't get to that point. And there's also issues around that. Well, I'm not that bad, so therefore I don't have a problem. But that's where it hits. It hits at the lowest level, and yet it's marketed at the highest level.
Interesting.
It is, isn't it? It is interesting.
It reminds me the way you're talking about how wine is produced and marketed and all of that. It's very similar to the stuff that I talk about with big food as well, right? Big food is made, they've got, psychologists and figuring out exactly the right combination of flavors and how the package needs to look to best appeal to you. It is all marketing towards us. And I find with food, so looking at it separately, to think that we're being manipulated, that changes how I feel about it. And so when I can apply that to wine, it's the same thing. So I can say I'm being manipulated to want it. So it's kind of like part of me is like, well, no one's going to be manipulating me. So I can help use that to fuel my as I continue on. So I didn't mention in so far in the podcast, but I've played around with, I've been off and on with alcohol, like probably a lot of your clients for a lot of years. I'll stop for a month and then I'll pick it up again. When I pick it up, I'm like sort of right back into it. Oh, I'll just have a glass on Friday and Saturdays. Oh, it's Thursday. It's pretty close. Well, I had a really busy day today, so I'll just have a glass of wine tonight. Oh, we're having this for supper. Let's have a nice glass of wine with it. So it starts to escalate. And then I go back and cut it out again. And I've got a really, it's interesting, but I've got a very high self-regulation. So most people, it's kind of like one of their lowest traits, but for me, it's my number one trait. So, I can give it up for a month and I can do that. I know a lot of people would find even that hard, but I couldn't really sustain it. But this year I heard you speak I think it was in December. And so I decided January, I did, my other month again, like I was doing, and I've just kept on going. So now into my third month. And so I'm going through exactly what your clients would be going through. And as I said, my self-regulation is really high. So I can like muscle my way. No, I can get through this day. No, I can get through this day. But I was still struggling with this idea of, how do I have my little reward drink on a Friday night? That kind of thing. So taking what you're saying, Michaela, and seeing it as it's not a reward. How could I consider something I've been manipulated to drink or manipulated to like, that's been pushed at me, that has toxins in it and all these other chemicals, and it changes my behavior. Luckily, I wasn't.
And much more besides,
And much more besides. So when I pile all of this on top of it, it does help my resolve to say, it's not a reward. Yeah. It's not a reward. Yeah. Still find it challenging, though, in social situations because, so many people, it's like, oh, yeah, let's get together and have a glass of wine. And so, or I've even got a friend group that I really love, call ourselves the champagne ladies. Well, if I'm not drinking champagne, I'm not a champagne lady. But how do you, what suggestions do you have for those kinds of situations?
So I think something to think about for you and maybe your people listening as well is that when we exercise willpower, we set up a conflict in our minds. There's the want and not want, and that causes dissonance, and that's like a disagreement in our minds, and that is stressful. And so using willpower, that is what we've got. And often the more strong-willed people will be the ones who actually cave and drink because their will is so strong to get what they want. And so willpower is not a good method to use to get out of this trap.
That makes sense.
And what we find is, in that, and there are methods that advocate willpower, people then count days. How many days since I had a?
Right.
And if you're out of a prison, why would you want to count the days since you were last in there? You are free. You run away, you skip and jump in the sunshine and run through the meadows. Yippee, I'm out. Maybe you'll mark the date in a calendar somewhere and sort of celebrate, oh, it's been a year. That was a quick year. But we don't want to be counting days that we've been in freedom, because otherwise what happens is we might not be physically addicted, but we're still psychologically addicted.
Yeah.
And this, when we hear about people in recovery, having to go to meetings every week, counting those days, we're talking about a psychological addiction still being there. Hence, it's still being a battle. When you're free from something, it's just not on your mind at all. And that includes social situations. So, I might say to my clients, so would you want to go to a bar and inject yourself with heroin? No, of course I wouldn't. Well, when you understand what alcohol is, you wouldn't want that either. Back in the 1950s, 70% of the population smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
It was encouraged. Socially, you potentially, by the sheep nature of society, people would think you were boring or something if you didn't smoke. And now, what would people think? What do people think? And so alcohol is going the same way.
I think you're right. I see it.
And there are those who say, well, I'm just doing this for my health. I'm doing this for my mental health. I'm making this change because I just don't want to live the way I was. And then adapting in social life is something that is a joy. And it is, because it's such a social pressured thing to do, it is probably the thing that is of most concern to my clients before they begin the journey, and even through the journey. I'm going out this weekend, or I'm going away with some girlfriends. What do I do? How do I? What is borne out every time is that the concern about it, when we don't want it anyway, they come back from their social event. That was so easy. I had a wonderful time. I talked to people. I was present in the moment. I listened to people. I took in all my surroundings. I realized myself that I spent so much time when I was somewhere thinking, is it time for my glass to be topped up yet? Can I have another? Shall I order another bottle? And you can see people around you. So my clients are out looking around them at other people and their friends, thinking they're looking a bit agitated now because they want the next drink. And the standard story of the designated driver is the one in the corner going, I'm not having a good time because I've got to drive everybody back tonight. That just perpetuates the idea of there being something to lose,
right,
and something to miss out on. And obviously, if we believe that, we are going to be sitting in the corner feeling like, FOMO, fear of missing out, and being glum. But the reality is that as human beings, we're designed to want social interaction. And when we're present in the moment to that, we're actually doing it authentically. And the after effects in terms of how other people feel about us are stronger in terms of that bonding because we're there. Alcohol actually shuts down our thinking part of our brain, so we're not there in different degrees.
right.
And so all round, the irony is that the social drug actually ruins social interaction.
There's a reframe. Really good. I know you've got a background in neuro-linguistic programming, and so I imagine that your program where you actually help people through this, you're really doing a lot of this reprogramming of the brain, and so that we think and feel differently. And that's the key. As you said, we can kind of muscle our way through it and stick it out with willpower, but then we're not really dealing with the crux of it, which is the real meaning behind it. So I really appreciate that you've brought this to people's attention today and helping us see alcohol in a different kind of way, that it's not benefiting us at all. In fact, it's harmful. It's harmful for our social interactions, and it's taking away from our life rather than adding to it. This has been so good. This is good for me.
And I think if I may just add one other point,
Sure.
which I really, when I say to people, if you take nothing else from this, then know this, that the person who is feeling stuck in this is not to blame. It's not because I felt it's my fault. I'm weak-willed. There's something wrong with me. Why can't I drink like other people? Those feelings of guilt and shame and all of those things that go along with that. So it is nobody's fault for being conned into taking a highly addictive drug and then waking up 20 years later realizing we're stuck in a trap.
Right. I love that. It's not your fault. We've been conditioned to want it. We've been conditioned to believe that it is a pinnacle of success, a representation of success, and it's a highly addictive drug. So not your fault. Great message, Michaela. I love that. Okay, I always ask my guests one last question, and that is, what is one action someone could take today to improve their health? I'm wondering what you're going to say.
I think the first thing is around the alcohol is if this is you feeling like this, is to get some information. If this has inspired some opening of curiosity, which is one of my 7 must-haves that we always start off with, is curiosity, then follow that through and be self-compassionate about where you find yourself right now. And you can do that immediately. It's not my fault. I'm not to blame. It's okay. And then decide that if you want change, that change is what you're going to have, however it comes and whenever it comes to you.
That self-compassion is such a beautiful place to come from, to start there. So I love that, Michaela. And you've got, you talked about people looking for information. I know that you've got a free class, and we have the link there, but would you like to talk a little bit about your masterclass that you've got?
Yeah, so it dives into the things that we've been talking about here in more detail. So I talk specifically about willpower and why that doesn't serve us. I talk about stress. Every one of my women on my email list have said that they drink for reasons of stress.
Yeah.
Feel stressed, drink alcohol. So we dive into that, how that actually alcohol causes stress. Yes, it does. So I dive into that and explain that more. I talk about why we fear success and why we fear failure, i.e. we fear not being able to stop. And we also fear what it's going to be like, what will our lives be like when we do, and what to do and how to channel that. So lots of goodies in there to inspire and bring some hope and curiosity as well. I sort of talked about that already. So yes, inspiring and just uplifting this whole thing.
Beautiful. So I know that's available on your website, and I will have the direct link for the class, but your website, can you share that with the audience?
So it's thealcoholcoach.com.
Perfect. Easy to remember. Michaela, this has been absolutely fabulous, and I know so valuable. I know valuable for me, but also I know for the audience, and for anyone that's struggling or thinking that, maybe it's time, then there's a resource available for you. And imagine there was an alcohol coach there to help you. So thanks so much for joining me, Michaela, and thank you so much to everyone who's joined us live or watching the replay or listening to the podcast. I know you've gained something useful from this, and feel free to share it with someone that you feel needs to hear it. Maybe you've got a group of friends. Maybe all of you could do this together. All right. Thanks very much. Bye for now.